More rewards, more savings. With American Express Business Gold, earn up to $395 back in annual statement credits on eligible purchases at select shipping, food delivery, and retail subscription merchants, including the $155 Walmart Plus monthly membership credit and $240 flexible business credit. Enjoy the benefits of membership with the Amex Business Gold Card. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Yeah, I mean, when you first said it, I thought about some old white man saying that. And it's like, well, black people seem happier in the 60s. You know, they knew their place. They weren't all bent out of shape and worried about they were called and all that stuff. You know, it was good times. I had a lot of good people that worked with me that were black and all this. You know,
I remember Sean Hannity said that one time. He's like, yeah, you know, the 1960s was great. I'm like, for who?
You know. What up? It's Three Brothers No Sense, your favorite barbershop style podcast. I'm Tavares Ferguson, aka Ferg, joined my co-host, Buff and Razi. Fellas, tell them what's on your mind.
I got quite a bit, actually. So I mentioned the House has a speaker, and his name is Mike Johnson, and he's already said something that not only is surprising coming from him, but just surprising coming from someone in his party. He was telling the story. I don't even know if it's really a story, but he was just explaining how, you know, he has an adopted black son, and he has a natural born white son that he had with his wife. And he was saying how they've both been raised the same. They both are pretty much the same when it comes to intellect and smarts and things like that. They grew up the same, but he was like, unfortunately, my black son is going to have a tougher time in life than my white son. And the interviewer was like, well, why do you say that? Why do you believe that? What can we do to change that? And he was like, well, in this country, we need some systemic changes. And I was like, Rrr. Like, it was just kind of like that party has been known for pretty much to an extent saying that there is no systemic racism. They'll always say, oh, there's some racism, and they never really point to anything specific, but they almost never conceded there's systemic racism. So for the new Speaker of the House to admit that, I thought was different.
Has he got any pushback from his comments?
I haven't heard any pushback yet. I don't know how much of his party has seen that interview. And I'm not saying that he's going to be like this liberal Republican speaker. I'm just saying that when you listen to like the Ron DeSantis of the world and, you know, 45 and a lot of the other prominent people in that party, that's just not something you usually hear. We recorded last week. On the day we recorded last week, there was a mass shooting in Maine. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we said one word about it. It's like I think it's like the third worst mass shooting in this country. 18 people dead, 13 others injured. The signs were there. People did the right thing. People reported him. Whatever systems are in place, it should have prevented him from getting a gun, or at least, you know, having his guns taken away. But whatever the case may be, I'm not really here to talk about that specifically, because I've told the listeners how I feel on mass shootings. And it seems like the country is catching up with me, because other than that initial night, I haven't even heard that many thoughts and prayers about the victims. But earlier that day in the Senate, Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, the state that's known for the Sandy Hook shooting, was debating Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. And I caught like half of the back and forth, but it has something to do with if people in the military are deemed mentally unstable, that their guns should be taken away from them temporarily until they are examined. And if they pass certain, whatever test they put in place, then they can be given their guns back. But we need to get guns out of the hands of people that are displaying some type of mental disturbance. And Senator Kennedy was arguing against it. And I remember his final argument was like, yes, I want everybody to be good citizens, but just in case they're not, I want to be able to have my gun. And, this gun debate has gone on for a long time, but I just thought it was interesting for that debate to take place. And then that very same night, nearly the exact example takes place in a state in America. So, if I can find that, because they're all on C-SPAN, I might even post it on Three Brothers, and that way you guys can see like the full debate and see exactly what they're talking about. And the last thing I want to mention, man, is Mike Pence made news. Former vice president, he's dropped out of the presidential race, and he makes history because he is the first former vice president to not get his party's nomination. So. Just thought that was interesting because, go ahead.
In Mike Pence's defense, you're usually not running against your former running mate.
That is true. That is correct.
That is true.
Yeah, like this is uncharted territory we're in.
Exactly.
So I don't even.
I got a little more political history. I'm gonna save it for the end, but that was interesting to me as well. But like you say, he is the first, I believe, to run against his own president at the time. So that's all I got, man.
He wasn't gonna get that nomination anyway. So
no, even if 45 didn't run,
yeah, I don't think he would have got it. They don't trust him because he wouldn't overturn the election, and they want somebody that will overturn an election. So, yeah, that he wasn't going to get it. He's too upstanding for the Republican Party. And that, that's sad. Anyway, have you guys heard about City Girls and their album sales? Or did you even know they dropped an album?
I only knew because of what you text us.
Yeah, for the listeners that don't know, City Girls did drop an album, and nobody knew about it because it only sold 10,000 albums or records. That is like going wood, as people like to call it, but it was really, really bad. They went on the Breakfast Club and they were just saying that, it was bad management, bad publicity. People shouldn't be hearing about their album dropping from the lack of sales of their album dropping. But I get that. But again, I think kind of like mumble rap, that style is kind of starting to die. I think Hot Girl Summer is kind of over at this point. So.
You think so? With Lotto and Sexy Red?
They are a little different, though. I think we've gone from Hot Girl Summer to this ratchet girl thing. It's a little different style to me.
And I actually did Lotto a disservice to include her with Sexy Red. I don't really rock with either one, but Lotto does have a 10 times better song than what Sexy Red has put out. Yeah. So I do want to clarify.
Yeah, like I put Lotto up there with like Doja Cat and like the new female rappers that actually can have a pretty good song here and there. So.
But is some of this the City Girls' fault? Did they release like a single or a video?
No. It's like their new songs that were on the album were like old comparatively. And so they had dropped a couple singles, but they didn't drop the album soon enough. Like, it was just really, really poor management of that whole release and everything. But I think they are pretty much dead and over. I don't think they're probably gonna get dropped from their label at this point.
I'm no fan of theirs, but just from the little bit I've paid attention, it doesn't seem like it's that serious to them anymore. Like, the only time I see Carisha is doing her podcast or running behind Diddy. And the other one I hardly see at all, ever. So it does not seem like, maybe they've been doing stuff and I just didn't know about it, but rap doesn't seem as serious as it did to them when they were trying to break into the game.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's they're not trying to develop as artists. They're looking for those quick hits, and you can only do that for so long, right? You can get one, maybe 2 hits out of that, but you have to develop as an artist. You got to be able to do the interviews. You got to be able to do the other things that I don't think they're able to do or willing to do at this point. So, speaking of stars, Jenna Ortega showed us how to actually pronounce Rihanna, or Rihanna, because her actual name, we should be pronouncing it Rihanna. So anybody and listeners out there, if you are pronouncing Rihanna's name Rihanna, it is Rihanna. And her team actually confirmed that. That's how you should be saying it. So, I didn't know that either. I was pronouncing it wrong. Who knew? And finally, I want to say
the record labels named you Rihanna. I'm gonna call you Rihanna.
Well, they were saying like all the other countries pronounce it Rihanna, like only the U.S. pronounces it Rihanna, and so I don't know. But her team actually confirmed that that's how you should be saying it, and they like gave her a shout out for it. So yeah, gotta pronounce it correctly, guys. And finally, I want to say Jurassic Park is here. Some scientists found a 46,000-year-old tapeworm frozen in Siberia. They defrosted it, and the tapeworm started having babies instantly. So, yeah, be ready for Jurassic Park or the next apocalypse. I don't know, but it may come from this 46,000-year-old tapeworm. But that's all I got, man. I just wanted to throw those little news tidbits out there for you guys, just so you know the awkwardness that doesn't grace your timeline all the time.
Yeah, that definitely checked all those boxes. Don't have a lot. I am kind of surprised that Biden and his administration has been a little more vocal about their support or warnings towards Israel and humanitarian efforts, saying, hey, like, you know, there's this debate how much we're going to support as far as financially, but hey, they're acknowledging that there are a lot of things going on that need to stop. Gotta be very careful anytime you say anything about subjects like this, but at least a lot of times those things go unchecked. I don't know how far and how detailed and how stern we're going to be, but that's a start, because I know we've talked a couple of times over the last couple of weeks about the loss of human life, civilian life over there, and what regular everyday people are going through. So the fact that they're at least addressing that, I don't know if that's all smoke and mirrors, you know, but we shall see. Any thoughts on that, Buff?
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit more critical on the administration right now, because I actually repeated something that they said when we first talked about this war, and there is no confirmation of beheaded babies. And the administration kind of quietly put out a retraction because the president said he's seen evidence of it. And when no evidence has surfaced, they kind of just put out like a little press release like, hey, he misspoke or whatever like that. And, you know, this has nothing to do with the administration, but Israel, man, they getting more and more off the chain. And the people that are trying to cover themselves and say, hey, like you said, Ferg, we respect all life. Some of them are saying that, but you can tell they don't really mean it. And when you got the president of Israel saying we don't even distinct the difference between Hamas and Palestinians, that is dangerous talk. Mm-hmm. And when you start bombing refugee camps and just to take out one leader, and you've killed more than 50 civilians going after this one leader, then I think America has to become more and more forceful in their criticism of Israel because it's getting out of hand. And again, I don't want to minimize what happened to them. What happened to Israel's by Hamas was terrible, and they have every right to hit back.
Exactly.
But you cannot. You still have to remember that there are innocent people, and for the president of Israel to say he makes no distinction, they should have overthrown Hamas. That election was 16 years ago. A lot of these grown-ups that are in Palestine now, they were kids when Hamas was put into power. Mm-hmm. They don't have the power to overthrow them like that. And then you also got them saying, well, like when they asked them about bombing the refugee camp, well, we told them they need to leave the area. Okay, people keep saying that. People keep tossing that around. Just leave the area. The three of us all live pretty decent lives. If somebody told you, hey, leave your home because that area is about to get bombed, we all can afford to go somewhere, but for how long? And where are we going? Mm-hmm. And what are you doing about your job? And what are you doing about your, everything else that you got going on somewhere? Like, just to tell people, a nation of people, they got to move. Where?
Right.
When you had Egypt barely wanting to let them in, they finally decided to open their borders and let them in. Like, it's crazy, man. And I just think the administration does need to be more and more forceful. It sounds like from what you said, Ferg, they're taking the start, but they got to be more forceful in it. But I do admit, all of it is difficult. War and all that stuff it's not easy. It's
and shout out to Bernie Sanders. As a Jew, he spoke out against Israel, and that's a really hard thing to do. So he did speak out about exactly what we're saying. It's like, look, I get it. You want to go back after Hamas, but the thing is, you can't kill indiscriminately. You can't, humanitarian. You got to provide humanitarian assistance and allow for humanitarian aid to be in. Get into that country, those types of things. So he called him out a little bit, and that's a big deal for a Jewish person to actually come out and on the House floor, or the Senate floor.
I'll leave it with that. I think that was a good place to end. Is Sophie available?
She is. Hold on, let me grab her.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Look at Sophie soaking up that game. She like,
yeah. What about you?
But I have a joke.
Okay, what you got for us?
Yes.
What is?
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Kang.
Kane who?
It's actually a kangaroo.
Is that one you made up?
Yeah. No, I found out the other.
All right, Sophie. We're gonna have to go back to the drawing board on the impromptu knock jokes. Mm-hmm. But your hair is popping.
I had another one in case you guessed it.
I would have never guessed that one. Never guessed that one.
Yeah,
I didn't expect it, but I would never know.
Okay.
You seemed to be on a roll last time.
Yeah, I was in a zone.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You gonna go for another one?
Oh, do you guys want another one?
Sure. Give me what you got.
Yeah.
Why not?
What do you call a lazy kangaroo?
Oh, sticking with the kangaroos, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kangaroo day. A pouch potato. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Sticking with the kangaroo thing.
Thank you.
I was trying to figure out, like, is she going to come back around from the first joke?
Next week it might be bees, maybe cows.
Okay.
We'll see.
After Halloween, eating a couple of Laffy Taffies and reading those jokes. Whew. Who are writing those jokes?
Oh yeah,
I feel like they were better when we were kids. They are awful now,
those
man.
Laffy Taffy jokes, they're pretty bad, man.
How were your Halloweens? Razi, your costumes were super dope.
Oh, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You're definitely in the top 3. I think your competition with the dude who dressed up as the Montgomery Brawl chair recipient.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Chloe Bailey. No, did y'all see what's her name? Lipstick Lover. What's her name? Janelle Monáe. Yeah, did you see her? She dressed up as a chameleon.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah,
see that.
yeah. You got to watch that. Or look at that one first.
There were a lot of good ones. Kerry Washington did good.
Yeah.
Diddy went over the top, but I mean, I got to give it to him. It was good.
Yeah. Did he rent the Batmobile?
He had. I guess so. I was like, damn. How the hell he get that?
That is creepy.
Yeah, but that side boob though.
But that side boob though. Wow. Who's Ferg? That's right. Yeah, this is with titties.
This is disturbing.
Why? Because you kind of like it?
Nah, this is sci-fi. This is
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think I can go first. Mine's probably gonna be pretty quick, actually.
Okay.
So
good.
I don't know if you guys have heard about Marcus Jordan, and so Marcus Jordan has been dating Scotty Pippen's ex-wife, and they are engaged. And Marcus has asked Michael Jordan to be the best man in his wedding, and so. So I want to ask you, brothers, do you think MJ should be the best man or not? That's his homeboy, kind of best friend.
Who he's had a falling out with.
He has had a falling out with. But he's known, that ex-wife for a long, long time. And now his son is about to marry her.
So let's put this in perspective. So if I'm getting the angles right. So me and Z get a divorce and Ollie ends up getting engaged to Z. Right?
Right. Should I be the best man?
I mean, yeah, if you want to die. I don't even know how that happens. I mean, at this point, I'm trying to erase that thought from my mind and put it back to your original question for them. Because I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you know Ferg, but Larsa said that it just kind of happened. They knew some of the same people.
Yeah, they grew up together.
Because of so
yeah,
they neither one of them planned it. It just kind of happened. So why does Razi have to die in this scenario?
Everybody got to
die. Z can't get remarried if y'all divorce.
I want nothing but bad for her. We already had this conversation.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I think on top of that, if she does get remarried, not to your son,
her godson,
but her godson, yeah.
I'm going to say no. Jordan shouldn't. And I know I've only heard him speak out on this once, and he said he doesn't approve of the relationship. Now I don't know why. I don't know if that's because of the falling out he has with Scotty, or if it's just overall he just thinks that's cruddy. But I mean, NBA players are used to seeing people do cruddy things. They smash each other's wives and stuff like that. That's why it's beef between teammates at times. But I'm going to say no. Yeah, that's oh my goodness, yeah, that too. I'm going to say no. Just even though you and Scotty aren't seeing eye to eye, just remove yourself from that situation. And stay out.
There's nothing good that's going to come from you being involved in that wedding. Going to support your son, that's fine. Being there, that's fine. But just like the best man, I don't know. Is Scotty invited?
Well,
I mean,
I wouldn't think so. But
is Scotty invited?
But also,
just he knows the family.
Right, he did make it happen. But one of the other things that Marcus brought up is that Jordan was the best man at his other brother's wedding, right? And so it's kind of like he's like,
Did he
it's
marry
only
a
fair that
teammate,
he's
his wife, ex-wife?
no, but I mean,
No,
like,
I mean,
does that matter? I mean, if your child is happy,
yes, there.
It matters.
Yeah,
It matters.
there
It
are.
matters.
They're comparing apples to oranges, right? It's not. It's not. All the situations aren't the same. You know, you can't support somebody just because I supported the other person. Like, if there's something that you disagree with, then you have the right to kind of step away from that as well. I don't know. That's just that.
I look at it like these parents that, you know, don't like what college the kid picks and it's like, I'm disowning you or whatever. Like, my thing is, I think he should be the best man, and because I'm supporting my son. He's in love. This is what he's gonna do. I'm there to support him.
Yeah,
and get through that.
You can support him by being there in the aisle.
What's the difference of being in the aisle and being and handing him the ring?
There's levels to it. Kind of the same way we talked about writing that character letter versus just being there in support. Like, I can't write and support you on this. Like, you can call me, we can talk through it, but I'm not going to do anything that's going to move this along or help this situation. Like, you dug your grave, you deal with that. Like, you when y'all were met, y'all first date, you can be like, man, if we get married, then my dad's gonna be walking us down the aisle. And like, you had to think that you had to know that this was a dumbass idea. Like, at some point, somebody had to tell you this is a dumbass idea. And when you do dumbass things, at a certain point, people have to distance themselves from your decisions. You know, you like it, I love it.
Like, are you saying that they can't come to Christmas dinner and stuff like that with the family and all that? Like that's like, how are you putting these like variables of I'm gonna halfway support you, right? I'm gonna halfway understand and do it's for me, it's you make the decision, you support them all the way, or you don't. So for me, it's like, I'm gonna be the best man or I'm not going to the wedding at all. Like, I don't see how I can be a halfway crook in that.
So, like, you compared it to a child picking a college that the parent doesn't want them to go to. In that scenario, you say, look, you announce your displeasure, but you don't disown them. And in this scenario, with him marrying her, you say, look, you know, I don't approve of this, I don't support it, but you are my son. But I'm not going to go as far, like Ferg said, there's levels to it. I'm not going to go as far as be your best man and make it seem like I'm giving you a stamp of approval. No, I wanted to be known that I don't approve of this, but at the same time, you are my child. And this is a big moment for you. I don't think it's a great idea, but I'll come and witness it. But I'm not gonna give my stamp of approval by being the best man.
Yeah, so I'm with it, because now you're holding my decision making hostage. Like, I can't be around my family because in your world it's all or nothing. So the closest thing I can compare to, Razi, is for us, if TJ or Ali go to college and they want to pledge, my kids can pledge anything they want to. I'm not paying for anything outside the bros. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can do what they want to. I'm supporting you, but I'm only supporting you to a certain level. Like, I don't approve of these other organizations like that. Mm-hmm. But if you want to, I'll be at your probate show with my frat shirt on. You know, like, whose dad is out there doing a 720 spin? That's TJ's dad. But at the same time, it's my right to say, you know what? I love you. I'm here for you, but I'm not going to fully support that decision.
Gotcha. I gotcha. I mean, it makes sense, and that's why I wanted to get you guys' takes on it, because like, I saw so many different opinions on it, and I was thinking, I'm like, I would probably do it, and I figured y'all would go somewhere different on it, so I wanted to get that opinion out there and get all the different angles on it. So, you know, I like when we don't agree on something.
Yeah, it's better. It's much better that way.
But you're wrong on this one, just in case you needed to know. You're just definitely wrong.
So I want to make the case for going second, only because I had this conversation with this person yesterday, and I wanted to speak on it before I forgot it. So I was having a conversation with someone, And I'm not going to even put like a question out there. I'm just going to tell you guys what the conversation was and just get you to pick what you want to comment on. Or I don't know, maybe I will decide to make it a question. But I was having a conversation with someone and I forgot how we got on this part of the conversation. But it turned into, how you run your household. And he was saying that, I really prefer the traditional way of running things. Like it's like 1960s in my house, and that my wife, she does like as far as the health of the baby, the health of the child, the nurturing, the feeding and stuff. She does that. I do the yard work. If anything needs to be fixed around the house, I take care of that. Very, very traditional. He feels like things were better that way. We, as a Black people, we were a stronger unit when we had that strong family unit and foundation. He was talking about how the marriage rates were like at 74% back then versus how they are now, and how we almost encourage to an extent women to be single. And then it went on, and I said, well, okay, I heard him out and saw how he felt. I said, well, what do you think led to this? And he said, I think we stopped holding men accountable, and we need to start holding men accountable. I think, Ferg, you said something similar to this, but he was saying we need to go as far as if you hanging out with a homeboy that's stepping out on their wife or doing things they shouldn't be doing, you shouldn't be hanging out with them. He's like, you need to disown them. Like if we about to go hang out and one of them is doing X, Y, and Z, hey man, you need to go home. He was like, we need to hold men more accountable. We need to make men feel ashamed of dogging their women out and things like that. And he went as far as to say he prefers to do business with people that are married versus some single guy, because he feels like marriage just instills a certain level of discipline. I'm probably leaving out some nuggets, but like that is like a general conversation that we were having. And I just wanted to get your take on, while you guys are answering, I had him actually send me I was like, yo, send me some bullet points that you remember for our conversation, just so I don't leave out anything. So while you guys are answering, if I see something I left out, I'll kind of toss that out there if I see your answer or response rather is applying to it. But just based off of that 1960s traditional, hold men accountable, protect women better, things like that. What do you got? What you got?
Where do I start? Oh my God. 1960s traditional, when guys could have whole other families on the other side of town and nobody said anything.
I knew you would go to that, but clearly he's not speaking of those type of men, because he just said we need to hold men accountable. Not every man was doing that. There were examples of that, but not every man was doing that in the 60s.
A lot of men were. Like cheating wasn't cheating.
What's a lot? You think the majority of men were doing that?
Yes, I do.
You think the majority of men had other families?
Not other families,
No.
but I do think the majority of men had a little side chick. That was a very commonplace.
So do you think the majority of men have side chicks now? Or cheat now?
Probably. I hate to say it, but I mean, why do we think 50% of marriages end in divorce? Why do we think so many people?
Because we know the majority of marriages end over finances, not infidelity.
So I'll give you that. What I'm saying is, I do think when you say, this 1960, panacea, and here was the euphoric, like quintessential relationship, didn't exist. That was TV, bruh. Like that wasn't the every person out there was doing that. So when you talk about the holding people accountable, they didn't hold each other accountable back then either, right? Like marriages stayed marriages because women had no other choice but to stay in those marriages, right? Like they couldn't go get jobs for real because you had that male superiority and patriarchy that was there and all of that. Like the downfall, and I think we've had this conversation, the downfall of marriage really came from women being able to walk away. Them being able to stand on their own and be independent. That really is ultimately what caused the downfall of marriage. They're able to stand on their own and be individuals with the same responsibilities and ability that men can to live life.
So for them to walk away, are you saying when women were allowed to work at the rate that men are, that gave them the independence to be able to walk away from marriages?
Not just work, but the ability to work, the ability to have a bank account, the ability to sign on a mortgage, to be able to sign for a loan, like to be able to do the things that independently.
Women were able to sign for a mortgage.
No, they weren't. No, like
yes,
not to
women. There were women that had mortgages back then.
But every bank wasn't allowing them to. That's like saying, oh yeah, black people had mortgages too. I mean, we know that banks.
Okay, but I wouldn't say black people didn't have mortgages. I would just say it wasn't at a fair rate as compared to white people.
Right. You couldn't go in a bank. There were banks that wouldn't let you do it. Like when we talk about the ease of them being able to do it, right? Like they had the opportunity to be able to do that and live life on a somewhat equal playing field. So that's what I'm looking at. So I totally disagree when it comes to, oh, if we went back to 1960s, all this stuff would just work back out. It may get back to where, yes, the rates were higher or whatever, the marriage rates were higher, but are we going to have women happy, right? Are they going to be happy in those roles? Are they going to be, after kind of tasting the opportunity to be able to go out and do all this and move independently, would they want to go back to where they don't have the opportunity to move independently anymore?
So I think you're hung up on 1960s.
Well, I'm just talking about that traditional.
Let's say your traditional.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're saying women in general wouldn't be happy with traditional marriage.
No, because women are in traditional marriages now. There are a lot of women that are in traditional marriages where they play the traditional gender role. Right. If we want to talk about what a traditional marriage is, like the traditional gender role, right? You raise the babies, you clean the house.
So what do you disagree with then?
I disagree with going back to where they, like, I don't think that where you have to have that to be a successful marriage or to be in a successful relationship. That's what I like. There are women that are in that role, in those roles. There are women that play the complete opposite, and guys do the homemaking and stuff like that. And I think those relationships can be just as good, and they can be just as happy. I don't believe in men have to do that gender role, women have to do that gender role, and those are the ways. So when you talk about going back to the 1960s, that's what I think about, is that the guys have to do this, the women have to do that, and they're locked into those roles. I don't think that. I think somebody in a relationship needs to do those roles. I do. I just think that it needs to be a discussion between the man and the woman who's going to do which one of those roles.
Okay.
I have a few questions. Well, let me start with this. Is he married?
Yes.
How long has he been married?
Let's say 10 years.
Okay, so he has time in. Okay, because he seemed very like either newlywed or kind of pissed about his own marriage. My assumption. A couple of statements I'll make.
What made you make that assumption?
Because like almost to the point, like, man, the shit we dealing with today, you know, if I was married in 1960, going back to 1960, I wouldn't be dealing with the problems I have at home. You know,
well, no,
but, you did say his house is very traditional. It's like the 1960s. Okay, yeah. I take that back. So I was just asking how long he has been married, because it's just. But I do know, and is he older than us?
Mm-mm. He's our age though. He's
okay. Because I have heard men who are a little older than us or a lot older than us still have that mindset. So there's a couple of things I think we often romanticize about the past. I think, you know, in general, we talk about, you know, and you do a good job of kind of bringing people back, but we romanticize about the 80s and the 90s and the music and how great things were, and how, you know, we often hear people talk about, well, we need to get back to these real women that, you know, where the grandmas at, or, you know, or where the real men at, because we talk about these things and we realize that people had just as many problems. Problems was just different. You asked Razi about infidelity. I don't think infidelity has changed. I think men and women, and I'll just speak for men. I think men cheated then, men cheat now. Now, it might be a little more where you might have been cheating with Miss Daisy next door. Now you're going to freaking DR and Cancun and, you know, work trips and stuff like that. So you might be cheating with 5 versus 1. And people have more exposure. You know, I think Pandora's box has been open. And so women and men are cheating, and women and men, sometimes it's almost like when you look biblical in the Garden of Eden, once your eyes are open, it's hard for people to go back. You know, women have more options, men have more options. I think the biggest change for now, between now and then, is marriage might have been a little more stable, because I think the blueprints they were using had withstood the test of time. Not saying it was right. I think our generation we're dealing with something that's really never been dealt with. We're learning how to navigate relationships and marriage that hasn't happened before. So we're dealing with women who have more financial freedom, individual freedom, more education. Men are dealing with trying to be more emotionally intelligent, like all these things. And like, we've never done this. You know, my dad's generation, granddad's generation before, like, it was like a man's supposed to provide, yada, yada, yada. Here's the blueprint. This is what you're supposed to do as a man, and this is what you're supposed to do as a woman. And I often talk about one of our biggest challenges is we want some of those things, you know, on both sides. But then we don't want the other side of it. And so we're battling like, okay, you're an independent woman, but you want a provider as a man, or you want a woman who's helping you with the bills and being a provider and a teammate, but you also want her to be so submissive. And it's kind of like, nobody knows how to navigate this. It's not fair. And I think once we both can realize that we're navigating a world that's never been done. You know, our parents and everybody's like, well, we've been married for 20 years. It's been different. It's different. It's completely different. You know, women are walking away from marriage. Men are walking away from marriage. People are choosing not to get married now. You know, an old maid. I forgot what I was listening to The Color Purple, and they were talking about one of Mr. Sisters. And this is in the 1920s, 1930s. She was 25, and they called her an old maid. You know, 25, if you get married at 25, girl, you too young in 2023.
Mm-hmm. And
25, you're supposed to be having a hot girl summer.
Yeah, and even in the 30s and 40s, it's, you know, it used to be old cat lady. Now it's, you know, oh, that's cool auntie. Like, nobody, it's not as big of a deal that she is 30, 40, 50 and unmarried. Like, she just didn't want to get married.
You know, I don't think... I think the thought of marriage in the past was kind of like, that's what you're supposed to do. But I think our generation and younger generations are challenging, do I want to get married? I know more successful single men and women than I care to know. You know, I know guys like, why would I get married? I'm living this life and I got to walk away from it. If it doesn't work, I'm losing a lot. You know, same thing with women. You know, they're getting married at an older age. They've experienced life. You gotta remember, a lot of our family members in the 60s and 50s and early, they're getting married as teenagers. This is all they know. You get married to Byron at 16. At 30, you've been with him 4 years and 8 kids. What the hell you gonna do? You know, you normalize each other's, you know, good and bad. You know, that's all you know. 16, he's been abusive since he was 16. Now, that's another thing. Maybe niggas won't cheating, but there was a lot of DV abuse. Yeah. That was, and you know, that was normalized. You know, you told Harper to beat me. Like, there was a reason, because that's how men kept women in check. Also, and I will say the last point, we need to hold men accountable. I do agree, but I think we need to hold everybody accountable. It's just not a male-female thing. I think we need to hold men accountable. I will never, I haven't lost friends, but I have people who probably have distanced themselves away from me a little more, because I will never judge you, but I won't condone your actions. It's like, yeah, if you're about to go do this, yeah, I'm about to go home, or I'm about to move around. I'm not gonna be over here with you and your mistress. I'm not gonna be over here. Don't put me in your lie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna be your wingman so that you can pick up this chick, and cheat on your wife.
I don't do that, and they know that.
Yeah,
and people know that. And do what you do. It's your life. I can't stop it. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I don't know what's going on with your life. But I will always, encourage you. I've told people, like, hey, maybe it's over. Maybe what's your end game? But I would do the same thing to women. We're navigating a new world, and we got to figure it out. And I think it's not going to happen anytime soon, because we're so busy only talking about our part and how the other person is so wrong. Maybe men and women were more together back then than they are now.
Yeah, and as far as accountability, I think so. You have to decide what accountability looks like. And I think it varies from person to person, because I think in a sense he was saying, it sounds like he was saying be more direct in your criticism and critique of them, versus I'm kind of more along the lines with you, Ferg, like, because I don't think, and we've talked about this on this show before, infidelity isn't the only issue in marriages. Like, you may have a gambling problem, you may have a drug problem, you may have a drinking problem, all of that. Like, I think you can hold people accountable in your own way. Never condone it. Don't be the guy that, like, hey, you think you get out the house? I got 3 hoes that want to meet up with you. Like, don't feed them, but like you say, hey man, if that's what you're gonna be doing, don't include me in it.
Yeah, I'm not an enabler at all.
But I do think I don't. So you like Razi said, women were unhappy and everybody had well, no, he didn't say everybody had a family, but everybody was cheating and stuff. I do think that, there's a point to be made that the government looked around and said, hey, we could use more tax dollars, and put on this campaign to urge and push women and to pass laws to allow women to work. And it made it so you almost need both parents working.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You need both parents working in order to survive. And that puts a strain on when you're working, trying to raise kids and be a husband and be a wife. That puts a strain. I think that has a lot to do with the high divorce rate.
Agreed.
I think what you said, Ferg, and I think Razi alluded to this too, like women, they have more options now. And they're not being encouraged as much now to hurry up and get married and things. Like it's not weird to see a 40-year-old woman that's not married. Like that's not weird. Like you probably assume, man, she got it going on and things like that. She's very selective on who she wants to be with. So I like some of the stuff he said. I didn't agree with some of the stuff he said. And I even told him, I said, yo, like taking your first line, I said, you know what would happen if you were on like a popular podcast? They would take that first clip. Man, I want things to be like the 1960s and then not include anything else you said. And then they would put that out there and you would automatically be painted as this, this villain. And I feel like at the end of the day, he just wants to see black people win. And I think we all have different ways on what that looks like and how to get there.
Yeah. I mean, when you first said it, I thought about some old white man saying that. And it's like, well, black people seem happier in the 60s. You know, they knew their place. They weren't all bent out of shape and worried about they were called and all this stuff. You know, it was good times. I had a lot of good people that worked with me that were black and all this stuff, you know.
I remember Sean Hannity said that one time. He's like, yeah, you know, the 1960s was great. I'm like, for who?
right. You know? And that's what I'd lean in when I was just like, it wasn't all roses and peaches and rainbows. It really was hard for women at that time to be able to get out if he was cheating, if he was beating her, if because of all the hurdles that she would have to run into.
I don't think it's all roses now. I think women have more money.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know if they're happier. I don't know if they're happier. I know they tell me they're happier, but then every once in a while you see a chink in the armor where they'll say, you know, I put on this front like I'm this and that, but I really wish I could find someone, but I can't find someone on my level. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure.
I'm ready for the soft life. That's the new one, right? I'm ready for the soft life. Yeah.
But I think because there's men that do that too, and then they get like, I'm getting older. You know, I want to have kids and all this stuff. So I don't think that it was. I think it's all relative. So if you look at, that's why I use the Pandora's box and Eden. You only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. So a woman in the 60s maybe felt confined and she'd have a lot of different escape, but that was the norm for her. Mm-hmm. And so if this is what you feel like and this is what you feel like, you know, the same way we normalize a hot girl summer is like, well, women are sexual liberation, sexually free, whatever the case may be. They normalize that, right? But 3 summers before that, the idea of a hot girl summer is like, say what? You know, like, what are they doing? Nah, never. And so the same thing in the 60s and things like that, they normalized their environment. And once things started opening, and like you did make some good points about the government there's some influence. Yeah. There's some things that are going on that make
the government fought back from women's liberation as long as they could. I mean, women, because I don't want to take away from women's suffrage and the fact that they fought to get those rights. It wasn't the government back in the back of their mind like, oh, let's give them these rights so that we can get more tax dollars or whatever. Women fought for that, and when they got it, that's what happened is now we talk about that right now. You just doubled the workforce. So now I don't have to raise wages because I got plenty of workers and that type of stuff. So what ended up happening, it was a fallout of women's suffrage and women actually going and getting all those rights, civil rights, right? Because a lot of what they got because of civil rights. It's not because of women's suffrage. But when that happened, they were able to, there was a fallout from the government based on that.
Buff, you said something, and I think this is something that a lot of women push as well when they're navigating and trying to learn this new age thing is now that you have 2 people working, you know, there's stresses that come with work. Mm-hmm. There's challenges, and when, you know, only one person was working and I can come home to my peace. You know, when we walk through the door together, and we've talked about using several, you know, different scenarios in this podcast, you know, I think when Ebony and them were on, it was like neither one of us want to cook, right? Mm-hmm. What do we do? Now that becomes a fight, or you're unappreciated, or if, you know, in my mind it's like, see, that's wrong with these women now. In her mind is like, see, I don't know what this nigga want me to do. He want me to work, take care of the kids, and now we're battling on something. And the situation is we both just worked a full-time job and we're both tired.
Right.
And we're mad at each other because of the scenario where, like you were saying, where the cost of living really is 2 people really have to work.
Yeah.
And for most of America, 2 people have to work, and some of these people have to work multiple jobs. And so that time where women could have, you know, women could be your peace. Not saying they're not, but that was kind of the expectation. So when I come home, you know, and I want my newspaper and my pipe and, you know,
the house is
the
clean.
big piece of chicken.
That's the other thing, right? The house is clean. You walk into a clean house, you feel better. Like you can,
that feng shui is gone.
Yeah, like you can, and so now you walking in and both of y'all looking at the dishes like, shit.
Those damn dishes, bro! I swear.
And laundry.
And laundry.
Dishes and laundry.
Now, full disclosure, I do want to let the listeners know his wife works. She has her own business. She runs her own business, so she's able to do it like from home. But and I also want to say this because he's gonna listen to this episode. If I didn't represent you as well as you think I should have, brother, you are more than welcome to come on the show and state your case. We will have you on, and we can talk about this more. But since Ferg let me go second again, I do want you to get a question in on this show, man. So
okay,
we'll leave it at that.
I just sent the brothers a clip. It's old. It's from the UK, and they're talking about accidental racism. And do you guys know the context they're talking about?
I don't.
So Danny Baker, who was a former BBC personality, when the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, had their child, Mr. Baker made a post on Twitter where he had them walking out the hospital. Well, he had a couple walking out the hospital with a monkey between them and saying like, hey, I guess the royal family is headed home. And he said it was a gag. After he got backlash, he said he deleted the post, said it was a gag, and he didn't understand why BBC was blown out of proportion. Like they know he's not racist, and they're taking it too serious, and they're giving into media and all this stuff. And he's like, the same I'm not racist type thing. And I mean, he was just going. He basically was like, once they came at me with that, he was on a F it campaign, because if they don't believe him, then why is he here? And that's why so when they were talking about accidental racism or forgiveness, and it's like, no, buddy, that's not it. Like, not only he's an educated person, as a commentator for BBC. You make this, you take it down, and then you double down with your comments that seem like you have no remorse, and you're almost trying to play the victim that BBC is canning you. So what are your thoughts on accidental racism? Is it real? And should people face the same punishment?
I liked, so in the video, I don't know who that was. The dude was he kind of jumped in at parts, and he talked about accidental racism, and there's a difference of how you react to the accidental racism, right? Like if you are apologetic, you learn, you change your behavior or whatever, it's very, very different than you having that accidental racist moment saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was racist, or I knew it was racist, but I was trying to play it as a joke. I apologize, won't happen again, yada, yada, yada. I do think accidental racism happens, and mainly because people have unconscious biases, people buy into stereotypes, people try to make jokes for it, they don't think it's actually, affecting that party as much as it is, those types of things. So I do think accidental racism happens. That we talk a lot of times about people do racist things, but they aren't racist, right? Racism exists, but individuals may not be racist. So I do think accidental racism happens. I think microaggressions happen. People buy into those stereotypes. But what I always lean on is, what does that person do with the information once confronted that it is racist? Once they do, somebody comes to them and say, hey, you shouldn't do that. Here's why. They're educated on it. Do they change? Do they, upgrade their life, whatever, to make sure that doesn't happen again? That's when I see the character of the person. Any type of racist act, I'm going to look at the character of the person behind that to see Was it intentional? Was it, is that person trying to perpetuate that? Are they doubling down on it? Those types of things. That's really when I decide what's going to happen to that person. The act, unless we can 100% know it was overt and it was an intentional and all of that, I'm going to react one way. But if it was like there's some gray area there, you can kind of see that it might have been a joke or attempt at a bad joke, but it just didn't go over well. That's when, I'm going to lighten off of how I react to it and then go from there. So, but it does exist. It does happen.
First off, it was kind of hard. Like from the moment he said accidental racist, that just triggered me to that awful song by Brad Paisley featuring LL Cool J. One of the worst things I ever heard in my life, because LL Cool J is saying, I'll stop sagging my jeans and wearing my big gold chains if you promise to stop police brutality and shooting me in the streets. Motherfucker, that ain't no comparison. Anyway, I digress. I don't know if there's such thing as accidental racism, because I never really know what's in somebody's heart. So I guess I'll just go off of what Razi said, that, yeah, I'm sure it happens. Like, people say things, especially if you talk for a living. I always say people who talk for a living, at some point, you're bound to say something wrong, something offensive, or, all of that stuff. So you're going to find yourself apologizing for something at some point. And so, yeah, I guess it could happen. I can't think of any examples. I remember H&M had the little black boy on their website wearing a shirt that said the coolest monkey in the jungle or something like that. And people were outraged, and the offenders was like, but his mom was there. His mom was okay with it. And, things like that. We seen what happened with Burberry. I think Gucci did something. A lot of these clothing brands. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. White actors, not even just actors, for Halloween, they, wear blackface and things like that. So I don't know, but this wasn't accidental. I don't think it was. I mean, like, we saw the smoke that she was getting, and to what you referenced, have a couple carrying a monkey out and saying the royal family, like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. That was overtly racist, right? That's what goes back to the when I can look at it and I see that it's intention there, that's very different than like the monkey thing, right? I know black families that call their kids like my little monkey, right? Like, because the kids crawling all over you or whatever and everything like that. Like, that was my nephew. That was one of the things, like, he loved monkeys and he always got monkeys and everything. And so we bought him monkeys and everything. So I could see him wearing that shirt, and going to buy it. So I think that may have been that unintentional thing or that accidental racism that we're talking about, right? It's like, unless that those affected parties can kind of come out and say, hey, that's not it, right? And then you react. And I think they reacted right. They're like, hey, we apologize. Here's what, we'll take it down, yada, yada, yada. So, again, how they react to it is probably more important to me a lot of times than the act, unless like this instance where you just know what it is. And especially when you have a history of their rhetoric is already borderline racist, right? They're saying just enough to stoke racist or racism, and then they do stuff like that. If Tucker Carlson put that picture up, it's very different than I don't know, Dave Chappelle putting that picture up, right? I'm gonna look at those very, very differently.
So, well, I will correct myself. So it was a image of a couple holding hands with a chimpanzee dressed in clothes with the caption "Royal Baby Leaves Hospital." So it wasn't a
monkey.
It wasn't a monkey.
Same difference.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things that were said, and we spent a lot of time talking about Danny Baker and the accidental racist, but we failed to really highlight the victim, the true victim in all this.
Yeah, Megan,
right?
And the baby.
It's you made a mistake, but I'm still hurt. my kid still comes home because somebody said something that was accidental. Like, they're still hurt. That doesn't make them feel any better, right? Like, well, he didn't know that he couldn't call you a nigger. You know, he probably heard it from his family. My kid doesn't, you know, because it's probably going to happen to each one of our kids. At some point, someone is going to call them that. And whether it was intentional or not, they're going to be hurt. You know, and that's what they were saying. You know, that's what she's saying. Like, why are we making him the victim? He's not a victim here. You know, he lost his job, and even she was saying something about systematic racism, and one of the guys was like, well, that's not Danny Baker's fault. Like, he was trying to make sure he was coming to his rescue, and if you looked at them, they were all looking like vultures, just trying to, and they weren't feeling anything she said. Back to what you were going, Byron, when they talk about accidental racism, and the guy who started off was basically saying, if you're not going to be forgiven, then why even apologize? Like, you there's an entitlement or a sense of entitlement to be forgiven. Regardless, is like, hey, you did it, deal with the consequences. Maybe I forgive you later. Maybe I'm not in a place to forgive you right now. Maybe you shouldn't be forgiven, and that is a blemish on your record, and you live with that. Sometimes you got to live with those scars. Scars are there for a reason, you know? And I believe that people may be, what do you call it, racially illiterate. Sometimes they just don't know. That doesn't change the fact that you hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. You know, if you know, accidents happen, but accidents have consequences too. You know, if you accidentally kill somebody, you're still going to go to jail. Maybe your sentence is a little lighter, but you're still going to be punished. It's not like, well, he really didn't mean it. Oh, he didn't mean it. Hey, everybody, he didn't mean it. We're good. We're good here. Everybody good here? Hey, get over it, Razi. You're too sensitive. You know?
Yeah. Apologies are for accountability, not for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say because of that.
Oh man.
Love it.
It's a good show, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, go ahead and close it on out.
All right, so I had quite a bit at the top of the show. Got slightly less at the end, but still quite a bit. We talked about Israel and Palestine, so I don't need to harp on that too much, except to say this. I'm hearing everybody, when they defend Israel, say Israel has a right to protect themselves, to defend themselves. This horrific thing that Hamas did to them, they have a right to retaliate and defend themselves. And we even heard some, as I pointed out at the top of the show, the president, the IDF, other prominent politicians here who have pretty much said, hey, even if some innocent people get killed, at the end of the day, this is Hamas's fault. This is Hamas's fault. If anybody innocent in Palestine gets killed, it's their fault. And at the end of the day, Israel has a right to retaliate because of what Hamas did to them and what they've done to them over the past decades as well. That sounds awfully familiar to what a group of people have been saying in this country for decades. Except when we say it, we've been told we should just forgive. We've been told you don't have a right to push back. We've been told wait for it to play out in the court system. That's how you get your justice. We've been told all of these things opposite from what a lot of these people are saying Israel has the right to do. And I just would love for those people to think about that for once. The same things that you've been saying to them, you've been saying the complete opposite to me and my people. And in that year of 2020 especially, and during the Obama administration, Trayvon Martin, 2020, George Floyd, you know, a lot of us were angry. And we've never done anything remotely close. We've had Tulsa, We've had Rosewood. We've had the Elaine massacre in Arkansas. We've had multiple incidents, the bloody summer that we had all over the country, where a certain group of people have unprovokingly attacked people that look like me, Razi, and Ferg for no other reason than we were succeeding. We were minding our business. We were thriving. Color our skin, all of that stuff. We were attacked and slaughtered. And nobody of prominence ever stands up and says, hey, you guys have a right to do this. We're always told to forgive and all of that stuff. And I just look at the dualities of these two arguments, and it just was interesting to me to see some of these people say these things on what Israel's allowed to do. But when it happens right here in their country, then we need to wait for all the facts.
I'm going to disagree with that.
Go ahead.
You said nobody says it. Nobody in the U.S. says it. Every other country, especially a suppressed country, they call the U.S. out on it. Like, how are you going to come over here and tell me what to do when you're doing this to your people at home? Like, if you travel, they say that.
Mm-hmm. I think Putin said that. Didn't Putin say that?
They called him out like, dog, how you, what?
During Ferguson,
like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like, your people sworn to protect and serve are doing this. You guys are doing this to people. You got people going to churches, bombing people. Like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, we just don't say it, or the U.S. doesn't say it, but everybody else recognizes it. So,
thank you for that clarification. So I could go on and on. I was beginning to ramble, so I'm glad you actually interjected. So I just wanted to put that out there. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I said I had some more political history. Dean Phillips, the congressman from Minnesota, is now officially running for president. He's a Democrat. It's interesting because he's saying he's not running against President Biden, but he's running for president. I don't know what that means, but I did want to point this out, that anytime an incumbent president was challenged by a member of their own party that was primaried, they lost the general election. So I just think that's just something to think about. Gerald Ford, it happened to him. It happened to Jimmy Carter. It happened to H.W. Bush with Pat Buchanan. They wound up losing the general re-election. So it's just one more thing that I just want the Democrat Party to think about as they head into 2024, and they're sticking with Biden. That's all I got.
He didn't need any help to probably lose. I don't think, even if he would have went unchallenged, I think it is what it is.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about?
Biden.
Oh, you think he's gonna lose anyway?
Regardless.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I don't think yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm nervous. I just I hope I'm wrong.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gonna be fun times, right? Only thing I got, man, I don't know if y'all have heard Dwight Howard likes meat, but what? It's just what is happening. But that's not actually the news or my closing comments. My closing comments actually is on those folks that are trying to make a big deal out of it, and I want to call out anybody who outs somebody and thinks that it's funny. That's really what I mean. Whoever leaked the video and all that stuff, that's who I have a.
Don't forget that there's a victim. Like, this all came about because there's
because he sexually assaulted somebody.
I know, everybody's laughing at Dwight, but the real thing is he may have sexually assaulted somebody.
Yeah. So
go
ahead.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that today, and it's been pretty hush hush for the most part for somebody to be such a big star. And I think I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we don't know how to deal with it, and they don't even know how to report the story, because this is probably the biggest case or scenario of its kind. Like, how do we spin this? How do we market this? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. If Dwight had sexually assaulted a woman, this would be all over the news. Mm-hmm. probably be in jail actually. Yeah, so I don't know. Very, very good take. So continue, Razi.
No, that's I was segueing into the outing. Like with that is very different because of the sexual assault and everything, but it made me think about everybody that's like laughing about, you know, his sexual preference. And I just wanted to segue into, I know people that have been outed and everything, and it's not funny on that aspect, right? Like people are making jokes about that. Like I made a joke about it to start off the segment, but ultimately what I want to make sure is that, you know, if you are in those situations and you have somebody that's in the closet, that's not your story to tell. That's not your, you know, you shouldn't be outing anybody. That is their time, and it's for them to come out whenever, when they feel comfortable to be able to do that. And I just want to protect folks who, you know, are in that situation and don't feel like they're ready to come out. I think everybody needs to respect that and hold off until that person's ready. So that's all.
Yeah. And there's nothing to out, by the way. There's nothing to tell. Not in Dwight's case. I'm just talking about in just general.
Right.
You know, well, mine is gonna be very light, and luckily it's Thursday, so I'm good. But screw you, Loki. That last episode ended like on a cliffhanger. So anybody who hasn't caught up to Loki, once you watch episode 4, at the end, have you guys watched it?
I watched 4, yeah.
Yeah, it just ended so abruptly. Like, really? We gotta wait this. I'm looking at the like, is this a season finale? It just ended so. Yeah,
so it's only 4 episodes.
No.
Oh, okay.
Watch. Am I right, Razi?
Yeah.
Watch episode 4. The way it ended, you were like, okay, there got to be a end credit scene or something. You got to give me more.
Yeah. So it comes out tonight, right? It drops on Thursday.
That's what I'm
so
saying.
yeah, I'm about to watch it now. So matter of fact, yeah.
All right, let me do some catching up.
We were looking at each other like, really? That's how you gonna do us?
Yeah.
I'm fast forwarding and like, you know, okay, it's got to be end credit. Oh no, you recommending something else? No. So screw you, Loki. That's all I got. With that being said, Three Brothers No Sense, your favorite barbershop style podcast. Check us out on Contentville every Monday at 8 p.m. That is Central Standard. I gotta make sure I get my time period straight there. So check us out every Monday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, Contentville. Thank you, ladies, once again. Three Brothers No Sense. Listen, like, share, subscribe, comment, and most importantly, listen again. Talk to you next week.